Good morning, friends. I'm Pastor Ashley. Thanks so much for joining me today for another Facebook Live devotional. It's a beautiful sunny day outside, and I pray that this day finds you well and resting in the peace of Jesus. I just want to take a moment again and highlight our website and our Facebook page. So if you head on over to our website and hit the online gatherings tab, you'll see information on everything that's coming up in the life of Fort Saskatchewan Alliance Church online. Our Facebook page is updated regularly as well, so make sure you keep an eye on both of those. And I just want to take a minute to make a correction to something that I said yesterday regarding our prayer for the city of Fort Saskatchewan. So we are having our first one tonight, 7 o'clock. Hop in your car, drive somewhere on the outskirts of the fort, and take some time to pray for our city, to pray whatever is on your heart for our city, that people would find Jesus, that Jesus would bring comfort and hope and healing to our land. And then I had said yesterday that the next one is next Wednesday, but I was incorrect on that. So the correct date is Thursday, April 16th. So that's next Thursday, not next Wednesday. And so I'll write a correction on yesterday's video as well. My apologies for that. Days are blending together here for me, and I got a little bit mixed up. So the next prayer after today, the next prayer time that we'll have for our city will be Thursday, April 16th. So I wanted to mention a couple other things that are coming up this week as we celebrate Holy Week, the week that we set aside to commemorate Jesus going to the cross, dying for our sins, and rising again. So this Friday at 10 o'clock, we are so excited to be partnering with Bridge Church and Life Church to bring a Good Friday service to you. So that's 10 o'clock on Facebook via Facebook Live, and then you can check that out on our YouTube channel as well. And then on Sunday at 9:15 via Facebook Live, we're going to be celebrating Easter Sunday together. We're going to be having communion on both the Friday and the Sunday, so make sure that you have your elements prepped for that. Bread and juice, crackers and water, whatever you have will work. And we are so excited to be experiencing God in new and unique ways as we celebrate Easter in a way that I've never celebrated it before. But God is present, and He is powerful, and He is moving. And so today, transitioning to our devotional time, I want to talk today about attitude. And I know, for me at least, it can be so easy to have a bad one sometimes. In a situation like this, where a lot of us are piled together at home, we're spending a lot more time with our spouse or with our kids, or maybe alone than we're used to. And it can be easy for tensions to rise and for bad attitudes to just grow. And I am speaking that from experience. And so it can be easy to have a bad attitude about a lot of things. A bad attitude towards God, a bad attitude towards our spouse, toward our kids, toward the government, our friends, our marital status, our job status. There's a lot of things in our lives that we can have a negative attitude about. But the thing about a bad attitude is that it ultimately can destroy us. It leads us to see things through a lens that isn't a godly lens, and it can lead to us making decisions through the lens of that bad attitude, and most often those don't go well. And so there's biblical support to talk about the dangers of a bad attitude. So we're going to head first to Proverbs 17 verse 22 today. And so I have all of these references written at the top of this post. And so you can go check them out later and take some time to reflect on them if you'd like. So Proverbs 17:22 says, "A cheerful heart is a good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength." And something that we're going to talk about today is how our attitude springs forth from our heart. There's so much talk about our heart in the scriptures. So a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. And so we can see from scripture that a bad attitude can be dangerous. But thankfully, the Bible doesn't just leave it there. It tells us how we can help to control those bad attitudes, and how we can change them into positive attitudes, into God glorifying attitudes. So I want to take us back to the book of Proverbs, one of the wisdom books. So much wisdom to be found in Proverbs for our day-to-day living, for day-to-day dilemmas. So I strongly recommend that you take some time and go through the book of Proverbs. But today we're going to go to Proverbs 4, verse 23. And it tells us to guard our heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. So just as I was saying that a bad attitude can lead to you making poor decisions in light of that attitude, the Bible is saying that as well. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. And like I said, our attitude springs forth from our heart. And there is no one better to guard our heart but God. And thankfully, He wants to do that. And so we're going to go to Romans right now. We're going to go to Romans 12, verse 2. And I used this verse earlier during my devotionals, but it is such a great one. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. And so I want to issue some encouragement to you this morning that when you find yourself having a bad attitude about something, take a moment and ask God what He thinks about that situation. And then go one step further and ask Him how He wants you to think about that situation. Because He is ready and willing to transform your heart and to transform the attitude that you have towards something. And then that brings me to the final verse that I want to talk about today, Colossians 3:2. And the Colossians 3:2 says, think about the things of heaven, not the things of earth. And I'm pretty sure that when you ask God to transform the way that you're thinking, when you ask Him what He thinks about a situation and what He wants you to think about it, He's going to point you to thinking about the things of heaven and not the things of earth. So an example of that could be if you are unhappy with your social status or your financial status. Maybe you have a job, it's not the job you think that you thought that you'd have when you were young and starry-eyed, and you don't feel like it's very important, and you don't feel like it gives you the kind of social status that you would like, and you have a bad attitude about it. You feel grouchy, you feel jealous of other people who are in a position that you'd like to be in. My guess is that if you ask God what He thinks about it, He's going to point you to thinking about heaven and not about earth, about how you are to lay up treasures in heaven, about how the economy of the kingdom isn't an economy of dollars and cents, but it's an economy of kindness, of finding satisfaction in Jesus, and in spreading the gospel, caring about others. So another example is if you are not satisfied with your current marital status. Maybe you're married and you don't want to be, or maybe you aren't married and you want to be, and you have a bad attitude about that, and you bring that to the Lord, and He will encourage you to love your spouse like God would love them. He would encourage you to love your spouse better than yourself, and He would encourage you to find your identity and your satisfaction and your well-being in Him. And He would encourage you to say that He loves you, and that He has the best possible plans for you, and that He isn't leaving you in a desert place for fun, but He cares deeply for you, and He wants to see your heart cultivated in love and in joy. So I encourage you to do that today, to do those two things. When you find yourself in a situation where you know your attitude stinks, to be frank, that you take a second and you ask God what He thinks about the situation. If you're frustrated with someone and you want vengeance, you want to get back at them, you're probably going to hear, my kingdom matters more, my church matters more, love others like you want to be loved. And it's amazing that how when you ask God for that, how He gives you a perspective, and all of a sudden the thing that you're having a bad attitude about can look different in some cases, and you can see it for what it is, and you can see, oh man, Jesus is greater than that, the kingdom is bigger and better than that, and that's what I want to be striving for. So my encouragement again today, friends, ask God what He thinks in those situations, and strive to put your mind and your heart towards things of heaven and not things of earth. And so I want to again issue an invitation that if you want to know more about Jesus, about who He is, about the fact that He came to earth and He walked with us, that He lived a perfect and sinless life, and that He died on the cross, and amazingly rose from the dead and defeated death, hell, and the grave for you. If you want to chat more about that, I would love to begin that dialogue with you. Again, I put my email address above this post, and you can just email me there, and I would love to chat more with you about that at any time. And so friends, I want to invite you to join me tomorrow at 10 o'clock for our final devotional this week. Friday's Good Friday, so we're going to be doing that service instead, but I hope to see you again tomorrow. And friends, my prayer for you is today, as you go through the day-to-day routine of your life and you bump your shins up against some of those situations that can cause a heavy heart, an angry heart, that you be able to look to God, and that He would be able to exchange that sorrow that you have for His joy and His peace. So friends, today, go with God.